Diana. Oh, Diana. I sat down to watch this movie with my mom because she was there when it all happened, and she watched it on TV, and she followed Diana's life, and people loved her. People loved that woman, and she was so powerful and liked throughout the whole universe. And my mom really wanted to sit down and watch it with me, and I was like, okay, I haven't seen it. I don't really know Diana's whole life story or anything. I figured, I would learn more about her, and we sat down and I was into it and everything. And then the first thing my mom says when she sees Naomi Watts is like, "Wow, she doesn't look anything like Diana, does she?" I'm like, "Oh well, I was trying to defend it because I love Naomi Watts. I was like, "Oh, they can't really get an actress that looks exactly like her." And she was like, "Okay, I guess, And she likes Naomi Watts. We saw a couple of her movies. She was like, "Okay, I like this actress. Okay, we'll do this." But, about 15 minutes into the movie, my mom was like, "Wow, that's not how Diana was at all." I'm like, "Really? How you know? This is her, private life." And she's like, "No, she always had her head down, and she was very respectful, and she was very quiet, and these were those gestures are not hers. She wouldn't do this. She wouldn't say this." And she was not pleased with this movie. She said that it was pretty much not how she pictured Diana, and she doesn't think that it's real, and she doesn't think that it's faithful. So she was disappointed, and I was disappointed because of how freaking boring it was. I mean, this was like 2.5 hours and nothing happened. And, I just wanted to see a story about this great woman, and it wasn't that at all. It was very choppy. The editing seemed off. I don't know if it was the writing or the editing, but they just jumped around and it didn't make sense. And I suppose that if you're familiar with the story, then you're fine. But I wasn't. I wasn't familiar with her story with the doctor, and neither was my mom. Really, she said that at the time they didn't really say much about him. They mostly talked about her in the papers, and he wasn't around in the media so much. So she was interesting to see the whole behind the scenes look, but at the end of the day, I don't even think this was truthful. I don't, and I'm disappointed. The acting was not good. I mean, Naomi Watts, I love her. First movie I saw her was The Ring, and I was traumatized for life. Um, but she was not good. And I'm not just saying, I'm not saying that she wasn't a good Diana. I'm saying she just wasn't good at all. Doesn't matter who she was playing. And I just no, no. And then the guy, I always forget his name, Saeed from Lost. Jesus Christ, he became like a grandpa. I remember like 6 years ago, he had the long hair and the muscles, and he was a big soldier dude, and he would beat up people in the island, and now he's not. um, so yeah, it was a bit shocking to see him like that. But this movie, they wanted to, I guess, pay homage to Diana, but they did not at all. And I mean, I understand the way they did it. I understand that they wanted to tell a completely different story. It wasn't just the same old story of her getting into the royal family, of her being there and being, the rumors are she was being mistreated all the time, and, her husband cheated on her and all that. Um, and those are the rumors that they were always in the media and the papers, and I understand why they didn't want to make that story public again, and they wanted to go with something a bit better, in the sense of she was happier in those times with the doctor, but they did not do a good job of telling that story. I was intrigued just because I didn't know what was gonna happen, but at the end of the day, I didn't actually care what was gonna happen. I didn't want them to be together even. I just wanted him to sort of step away. It's very difficult to be with someone like her. I mean, she even has a line in the movie that says, "I'm just like everybody else. I have a cell phone. Actually, I have four." Um, and I really liked, one thing I really liked about the movie was how they showed her life in the castle. Um, the fact that she could ask for whatever she wants in the middle of the night, and her security, and the cars that she would change um, to move around the city so she wouldn't be followed. I liked those aspects of her public life, but then her private life was pretty boring. I didn't like it, and my mom didn't like it. And you know what? I take her opinion seriously in this one, just because she was around when Diana was around, and she, she followed her like everyone else, and she loved her like everyone else, and she followed her death, and so she knows her a lot more than I do, honestly, and so I take her opinion more seriously in this movie, saying that this was not a good Diana. So yeah, I liked the cinematography, but again, it was so choppy and the editing was weird. It just jumped around so much and nothing really made sense. And yeah, I guess, if you just want to see another version of Diana, this movie's good for you. I would not recommend it for Naomi Watts or its truthfulness, I suppose. But yeah, if you just want to see a movie and think that it's not attached to anything, then that's fine. But I could not get out of my head the idea that this was supposed to be a real person, and just didn't feel like it at all. It felt like a fake person that wasn't really made into a character even. So yeah, Diana, pretty disappointing. I'm very disappointed with this movie, but what can I say? Diana.